It's time for RiffTrax.
Ah, yes, one of Bartlett's familiar quotations.
They brought in the leading smorgasbord scientists of their time.
As Joan is making plans for entertaining a few of her friends at a buffet supper, she asks advice well ahead of time.
What do you mean, what am I wearing?
She has learned that what is correct in terms of etiquette is also highly practical and logical. So she asks what foods she should offer, how it should be served, and what preparations she should make for arranging a buffet supper table.
So saltines and tang are enough.
On the evening of her party, just before her guests arrive,
She hits the
June
mini-mart.
has everything ready, but she needs help in actually setting the table. The buffet supper is a bit different from other meals in that it is served in the later evening when only a light meal is wanted.
Local laws vary.
Chairs will not be needed at the table, since the guests will eat informally, eating wherever they wish to seat themselves.
Like in front of the TV.
A plain linen tablecloth is proper for this type of service.
Cotton means the party is off the
But
hook.
it should be laid squarely and smoothly, with the sides hanging evenly. For the care that is shown in entertaining guests is meant as a token of respect and friendliness.
Get out of my house.
Precision and symmetry are as necessary in arranging a table as is the choice of the proper service and decorations.
Plastic dog turds work great.
June wants candles on the table, and has to be reminded that this type of candlestick would be good if she were using candles as the principal light for the supper.
But they'll be using
But
cleaves.
since the candles are not to be the principal light, they should not be placed on the table at all.
And a warrant has been issued for your arrest.
However, her centerpiece of fruits is a proper choice. It is attractive without being obtrusive, and it is not expensive. But it should be placed exactly in the center of the table.
Surveyors are called in.
June enjoys the compliment on her centerpiece, but she still has a problem before her in arranging the table so that her guests can serve themselves without getting in each other's way.
And cause a
The
riot.
answer is simple. Place things around the table in the order in which each guest will help himself. First, the napkins and forks.
Then the pot
These should not be
brownies.
stacked, but laid out singly. Staggering the forks helps the guest to pick one up easily.
Well, she's getting her
Each rule
grody
of
hands
etiquette
all
has
over
a logical
them.
explanation of this kind. And what may seem to be a small detail is still a way of showing consideration for a guest.
No matter how much you don't
The same
want them
principle
there.
applies naturally in larger matters. The buffet supper as a whole is designed as a simple meal which can be eaten simply. Since the guests will carry their food to another room, the service is made as simple as possible.
Do the guests know they're going to a remedial buffet?
A single hot dish is offered and kept warm in a casserole.
I think he meant a
It may
single
be a
serving.
meat pie, macaroni and cheese, or whatever you prefer. It should be substantial, but it need not be expensive.
Yeah, if you don't mind
The object is
gossip.
to offer your guests something fairly hearty, but still a food that doesn't require a knife or cutting, for they will not be seated at a table.
Maybe they should
The same
postpone the
principle
party
applies
until
in
they have
offering
more
single
money and a
cold dish,
table.
which is a balance for the hot dish. June has prepared individual salads which can be placed on the same plate as the hot food and can also be eaten easily without awkwardness.
Have you met my
The
brother-in-law?
main dishes are spaced about the table so that each guest, as he goes around the table helping himself to each dish, will not be crowded, but have ample room.
How nice of them to host the Clump family.
The other foods may be placed conveniently between the main dishes. The
And
rolls
done
that June
at a
is serving
snail's
are
pace.
kept warm in a napkin, and they have already been buttered in the kitchen. In this way, the guest may put the roll on his plate and not be bothered with a bread and butter plate.
Dodged a
The
bullet.
entire meal, except for the dessert and drink, is put on the single plate, even the relish, or hors d'oeuvres, celery, olives, radishes, pickles, and so forth.
What a fascinating modern world we live in.
The dessert is served on separate plates, which have already been placed on the table.
So the damage is
offering of
done.
cake calls for another fork, and also in the serving for a cake knife and fork. The dessert forks are laid singly like the others.
No, June,
And now
not
our
there.
table
Please,
is
no.
completely set. June can be confident and proud of her arrangements. She has a pleasing and proper meal prepared for her guests.
And orange lips.
There is a hot casserole dish, hot buttered rolls, cold individual salads, relish. For dessert, there is cake. On the buffet are the drinks, milk and punch.
I rescind
For
my
older people, there would be
RSVP.
tea or coffee. The guests will help themselves from the tall pitchers. But now everything is ready.
Hooray.
And we can be certain that each guest will be fully aware not only of the food, but of the attractiveness and convenience of the table arrangement. The table arrangement will be seen in itself as a gesture of consideration for the guest.
I think
And
martinis
here
would be
is
more
the soul
considerate.
of etiquette, the proof of courtesy and friendliness.
Wouldn't it be easier to have their 6 guests just sit down at the table?
This was brought to you by the Tri-County Lakes Area Buffet Council.
It's time for RiffTrax.
Copyright by RiffTrax, all rights reserved.